Psalms 64, 7 and 8. But the Most High shall shoot at them with an arrow. Suddenly shall they be wounded. So they shall make their own tongue to fall upon themselves. All that see them shall flee away. I'd like to give all glory, praise, and honor to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakah, Quadash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of the great millstone, and Shalom to the elect of Israel. This is Thamayim in Atlanta. Let's go back to Psalms 64, 7. But the Most High shall shoot at them with an arrow. Suddenly shall they be wounded. Suddenly, as in at a moment. Surprisingly, all of a sudden. As it says in Luke, I saw Satan falling as lightning. And lightning strikes suddenly. It strikes within a blink of an eye. Verse 8. So they shall make their own tongue to fall upon themselves. All that see them shall flee away. Own tongue is in Esau's own tongue exposing their lies that have perpetuated the world for the last 500 years and longer. I'm saying that in regards to what's going on with Joe Rogan and his podcasts. And this article is from a week ago, last Friday the 14th. It's on theguardian.com. It says, menace to public health. 270 doctors criticize Spotify over Joe Rogan's podcast. And remember, it says doctors there. It says an open letter expresses concern about pestilence, misinformation, and specifically addresses an episode with virologist Robert Malone. And so this came out a week ago, and they were saying that doctors criticized it. And this was on multiple mainstream media websites and articles saying this thing. But fast forward to a couple of days ago, and it says a veterinarian, a dentist, and a podcast host. Majority of the 270 doctors who signed a letter demanding Spotify take action against Joe Rogan are not medical doctors. And I thought it was funny how the article, or how the headline opens up. It's just like a joke. A veterinarian, a dentist, and a podcast host walk into a bar. But you know what I'm saying. This is it's showing that mainstream media is actually the joke. But moving down, it says 270 people signed the letter published January 10th that called on the streaming giant to adopt a misinformation policy. But only 87 of the signatories are actually medical doctors. Some of the other medical professions represented included a veterinarian, a dentist, a social worker, and several psychologists. Some of the other members of the medical academic field featured include physicians' assistants, a biochemist, and nearly 100 PhDs and PhD candidates. Spotify has yet to publicly address the letter or the controversial episode of Rogan's hit podcast. During a 3-hour, 6-minute interview on the now viral episode of the Joe Rogan Experience, Dr. Robert Malone compared the U.S. to Nazi Germany. And I listened to this episode after I realized that that YouTube banned it. And so I went to BitChute and listened to the entire thing, and it was I'd say it's worth listening to. It was informational, and the Dr. Robert Malone, he was actually one of the scientists that helped develop the mRNA, or he helped to develop parts of the snake bite. Slovakia for saying that. saying too much, but he's also an insider, of course, because he's helping to develop these things. And that's why I read Psalm 64 and 8, because their own tongue is falling on themselves. He had a change of heart, and he's backtracking on his discovery. It says the majority of the 270 signatories to an open letter to Spotify accusing Joe Rogan of pushing anti-snake venom misinformation on his podcast, with one branding him a menace to public health, are not actually medical doctors. Hundreds of doctors and scientists signed the letter published January 10th that called on the streaming giant to adopt a misinformation policy after the comedian hosted the controversial Dr. Robert Malone last month. But only 87 of the signatories are medical doctors. Malone himself has an MD from Northwestern University. And that's pretty much the point. We're saying that most of them weren't actually. They were, podcast hosts and social workers and various other professions, while mainstream media was actually saying these were doctors, because they're trying to push their narrative, which is falling apart before their eyes, before the world's eyes, and everyone is seeing this. And they're seeing that not social media, but mainstream media is actually a joke, and the news that we get from it is a joke. It's just all part of Esau's narrative. And Esau pushes a false narrative. Let's go to Psalms 50 and 19. Thou givest thy mouth to evil, and thy tongue frameth deceit. And that's what Esau does. Everything he pushes out is a lie in some form or fashion. As Elder Malcolm says, they give you, for every truth they give you, there's also two lies bundled in there. And so you're always having to weed through all the information you get, with the exception of the truth, the exception of the Holy Scriptures, when it's told in its true form. But everything within this world is a lie, and it's being exposed now. And so people are at an all-time high in confusion. This is Job 13 and 4. But ye are forgers of lies, ye are all physicians of no value. And the few physicians or medical doctors that did sign that, they are of no value, because they're trying to shut down any narrative that doesn't go along with their pro-snakebite narrative. But it's not how science exists, and that's not how it's made. It's science means to know, and to know you have to take in different information to actually get to the conclusion of a matter. But they're shutting down other theories, other voices, so that it's only this one narrative. And continuing on with the science, this is 1 Timothy 6 and 20. It says, O Timothy, keep that which is committed to thy trust, avoiding profane and vain babblings and oppositions of science falsely so called. And that narrative that they're pushing, most of the narratives that they push are just vain babblings. It's just talking. It's not true. There's not thousands of different genders. There's only two genders. There's not, I don't know. There's various things within the world that are said, and it's just not true. It's not science, which is to know. It's not what's actually known. They're pushing just falseness. We're going to go back to Psalms. And I'm going to start at the top. Do ye indeed speak righteousness, O congregation? Do ye judge uprightly, O ye sons of men? Yeah, in heart ye work wickedness. Ye weigh the violence of your hands in the earth. Here's the point. The wicked are estranged from the womb. They go astray as soon as they be born, speaking lies. And we're at the point in time where these lies are being exposed, where Esau's skirt is being lifted, and all of his lies and his hidden things, they're being exposed to the world, to the nations, and it's being done through the men of the Lord, starting with the apostles of the great millstone and on down. Verse 4, the poison is like the poison of a serpent. They are like the deaf adder that stoppeth her ear. And whenever you do mention all these lies and the false history and the false science, the wicked, the Edomites, they can't hear it. It hurts them. It hurts them so badly, like the poison of a serpent. But they can't hear it. They don't want to hear any truth. Moving on to verse 5, which will not hearken to the voice of charmers, charming never so wisely. Break their teeth, O power, in their mouth. Break out the great teeth of the young lions, O Lord Yahweh. Teeth pertaining to power and to their voice. It needs to be stopped. They shouldn't be speaking. They shouldn't be in power. Let them melt away as waters, which run continually. When he bendeth his bow to shoot his arrows, let them be as cut in pieces. As a snail which melteth, let every one of them pass away. Like the untimely birth of a woman, that they may not see the sun. Before your pots can fill the thorns, he shall take them away as with a whirlwind, both living and in his wrath. The righteous shall rejoice when he seeth the vengeance. He shall wash his feet in the blood of the wicked. So that a man shall say, verily, there is a reward for the righteous. Verily, is a power that judgeth in the earth. So we're going to rejoice when these people are taken out of power, when the Edomites are taken out of power, and when the time of the Gentiles is fulfilled, and the Israelites, led by Yahushua, come back into power. We're going to rejoice over the blood of the wicked. And with that, I'd like to give all glory, praise, and honor to Yahweh Bahasham, Yahushua Bahasham, Rakah Quadash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of the great millstone, and shalom to the elect of Israel.